So I'm predicting the Champions League knockouts today, wearing an Arsenal shirt. So here are the matchups for the Champions League round of 16. Oh wait, no, UEFA are stupid and dumb and we had to redraw. Okay, maybe it's not UEFA, but there were a lot of errors in the software and as a result there were a ton of mishaps. Manchester United had originally drawn with Villarreal, and if you remember, they were in the same group together. So then another team was drawn with United, and that was PSG. But here's another issue. Manchester United were supposed to be in the pot of potential opponents for Atletico Madrid, and since they were drawn already, that wasn't the case whatsoever. So as a result, Atleti actually drew Liverpool, and as you remember, they were in the same group too. And then so another team was drawn with Atleti, and that was Bayern Munich, and you could definitely see why the Spanish club were a little frustrated with this draw. So as a result, the original draw was declared null and void, and we do another draw. And yes, it is absolutely right to redraw, especially after that many errors, but always remember what they took from us. Magic ways, my friend. Luckily for everyone, the second draw had no errors, so we can carry on. But before we move on, let me just ask for 3,000 likes on this video. That'd be great. So Real Madrid versus PSG, or as I like to call it, the Mbappe derby. El Chiringuito will have their eyes on this one as Josep Pedro with whatever wacky Mbappe graphic looks dead into the world's eyes, saying tic-tac. Now, Real Madrid being in the semifinals, I still feel was a bit of a fluke. This year, though, don't be surprised if they do reach the semifinals. In the Champions League, they won their group, just losing to Sheriff Tiraspol. Madrid's group wasn't the strongest, but their caliber of players is more than enough to face the best. Not to mention, they have the second best defensive record in La Liga right now, and who could forget about the new dynamic duo of Karim Benzema and Vinicius Jr. Benzema in the Champions League has 5 goals, Vinicius Jr. has 3 assists, Vinny Jr. also averages 3.3 key passes per game, 5th best in the entire competition. The midfield of Luka Modric, Toni Kroos, and Casemiro has not aged one bit either, and Eder Militao doesn't get enough credit for his contributions in defense. Now PSG on the other hand, and yes, I've been very critical about PSG before, but again, they just look very questionable. They finished second and even beat Manchester City, but that was a night where Manchester City were being Manchester City, and you can't really ignore the fact that they drew against both Club Brugge and Leipzig. And in terms of Liga, even though they are very much far at the top, there really hasn't been many convincing victories. Even recently, they were pretty lucky to not lose against Lyon. The biggest talking point for PSG coming into the season was the big three, and they all have different stories. Kylian Mbappe is carrying this team on his back with 10 goals and 8 assists in the league. And then he has another 4 goals and 4 assists in the Champions League. And despite Pochettino not knowing how to use Lionel Messi, he still has 5 goals to his name in the Champions League. And what about Neymar? Well, before he got injured, he's been downright terrible. In terms of the other parts of the team, Marquinhos and Verratti can only do so much to carry their own thirds. Just in general, PSG lacks fluidity and chemistry. There's a lot of things that worked against this club in the very beginning, but still, I mean, we're into January. Some of these things should have been smoothed out a little bit, and it just hasn't been the case. So verdict, PSG with their individual talent will put up a good fight, but Real Madrid in every third look way more solid, so I have to go with a Madrid victory. I'm genuinely shocked that Manchester City didn't draw with like Lincoln Red Imps or some shit. Nonetheless, it's hard to ignore that Manchester City overall are probably the biggest favorites going into the knockouts. They finished first in a very difficult group. We've already talked about the PSG loss, but they did also lose to Leipzig right at the end. In all fairness, that wasn't the strongest team, even though they probably still should have beaten Leipzig. Not to mention, Foulman was starting at striker. Currently in the league, despite having no clear striker, they have scored the second most goals, just 1 behind Liverpool. And their defense is even more exceptional, conceding a league best 13. Man City have a depth beyond anyone's imagination, but here's a couple key players. João Cancelo has been a major key to Manchester City's success, scoring 2 goals and assisting another 3 in the competition. Riyad Mahrez is still one of Man City's, if not Man City's best players, scoring 5 in the Champions League. Bernardo Silva was supposed to leave last summer because he wasn't liking the Manchester weather, as would any sane human being in that matter. But despite all of that, he's been a key to City's midfield and has even played up front with varying success. Sporting CP, I initially thought that Sporting Lisbon was the real name. I was wrong. Sorry about that. Shockingly, they finished second, knocking Dortmund down to the Europa League. A huge part of their successes in attack is Pedro Gonçalves. He scored 4 goals and assisted 1. Sporting are more than likely going to be grinding out in the defense, since City's going to hold up like 80% of the possession on average. So a player like Sebastian Coates, who is arguably one of the best defenders in the tournament so far, is going to be a key factor if Sporting have a single chance against Manchester City. So, verdict, I have to go with a Manchester City win. They're just heavy favorites for a reason. The one thing that stands in front of Manchester City and the trophy are Manchester City themselves. RB Salzburg versus Bayern Munich. Salzburg originally drew Liverpool, so it looks like their luck didn't really change at all. But all credit to them, because their group was difficult and they still managed second place. A key player in all of this is fullback Rasmus Christensen, who's averaging 4.7 tackles and 1.5 interceptions per game. And up-and-coming Karim Adeyemi has 3 goals to his name in the competition. But then you have Bayern, who went the entire group stages undefeated, 6 wins, 22 goals, and only 3 conceded. Robert Lewandowski continues his world-class form, scoring 9 goals in the competition, which is second best. Leroy Sané is actually looking like Leroy Sané again, scoring 5 goals and assisting another 4. Dayot Upamecano and Lucas Hernandez have grown a great partnership in the back too, and of course Manuel Neuer is there to add some more protection. Alphonso Davies recently was diagnosed with myocarditis, so we probably won't be seeing him in this tie. But in terms of a team like RB Salzburg, I don't really see that being too much of an issue. The only way I could see Bayern messing this tie up is if they start playing Benjamin Pavard. That's it. So, verdict, Bayern Munich will probably win this without breaking a single sweat. Inter Milan versus Liverpool. The last draw for Inter Milan was Ajax, so they definitely weren't happy about this redraw. Considering how bad Inter's situation got in the summer when they had to sell both Lukaku and Hakimi, they're still exceeding expectations. Currently first in the Serie A, and with some great performances in the Champions League, they see themselves in the knockouts. Hakan Çalhanoğlu is tearing it apart this season, and his creativity has no bounds. Çalhanoğlu doesn't exactly have the most attractive stats in the Champions League as opposed to the Serie A, but Inter are averaging the most shots out of every team in the competition. And what about the fact that they lost Lukaku? Have they really missed him that much? No. Edin Dzeko has been a fantastic replacement for Lukaku. He scored 3 goals in the Champions League for Nerazzurri, but Inter's overall top scorer in all competitions right now is Lautaro Martinez. And if he can find more success in the Champions League, Inter's attack will be a real threat against this Liverpool side. And speaking of defense, what about Inter's? Well, they've conceded the least amount in Serie A. This is great and all, but you have to remember, they're facing Liverpool, and this side's attack is deadlier than ever, scoring 17 goals in 6 matches. Mo Salah is in the form of his life right now. He's got 7 goals in the Champions League, and the 2 fullbacks of Andrew Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold are thriving, both averaging 2.3 key passes per game. Liverpool have shown a bit of weakness though, and that weakness being they seem to collapse sometimes. So verdict, I believe the tie will be closer than most people think, but Liverpool still win. Chelsea versus Lyon. This was the only matchup to stay the same way in both draws. But even with Gauthier gone, the French club has still gone on to win their Champions League group. Jonathan David has been important and will have to be at the top of his game if Lyon want to do the upset. He scored 3 goals so far in the competition. Left back Reynaldo has also been huge for Lille, 4.3 tackles and 1.2 interceptions per game. And in 6 games, he's averaged a 7.2 rating. Center back Sven Botman has only started 3 matches, but surely we'll see a lot more of him in the knockouts. Oh, and don't forget about Renato Sanchez, who I truly believe could turn this tie on its head. Now, Chelsea have been kind of inconsistent in the Champions League. They finished second in their group, drawing 3-3 against Zenit and also losing to Juventus 1-0. Chelsea's strength, of course, their defensive shape. Antonio Rudiger is at his peak, and Thiago Silva hasn't even looked like he's aged one bit. And then you gotta add on top of the fact that Edouard Mendy is a top 3 keeper in the world right now. And despite some inconsistency and a second place finish in their group, they've only conceded just 4 goals. Conte and Jorginho are making up a good partnership, and Mason Mount is averaging 2.3 key passes per game. The problem with this Chelsea side, however, is their attack. It hasn't looked that amazing as of recent. Funnily enough, Timo Werner is the club's top scorer in the competition, but more than likely we'll be seeing Romelu Lukaku play against Lille, and his reunion hasn't exactly met up to the massive expectations. Verdict, I'll say it. Chelsea don't convince me with their inconsistent attack. Sure, they have one of the strongest defenses in the world, but something tells me that this Lille side will pull the upset. So apparently Reynaldo is moving to Atleti. Villarreal versus Juventus, and Villarreal are going to be a little bit happier because the first draw was against Manchester City. Gerard Moreno is a fantastic forward. He only has a goal and 3 assists in the Champions League, but his stats in La Liga are even better. He's averaging 4.3 shots per game and also nearly 2 key passes. Dani Parejo has 2 assists and he's averaging 2.3 key passes per game. And then there's the important Juan Foyth in defense, who is averaging 5.6 tackles and 1.6 interceptions a game. Now, Juventus started off very poor, especially in Serie A, but they're looking much better as of recent. Massimo Allegri in his first tenure with Juve saw the best version of Dybala, and again, we're seeing that. 3 goals and 1 assist. Paulo Dybala has been essential to Juventus' success. Federico Bernardeschi has also found some pretty good form as of recent, especially in the Champions League with 3 assists to his name. And without Juan Cuadrado, that would be a chunk of Juventus' creativity gone. Weston McKennie this season has also looked pretty solid. But again with the verdict, I'm going bold again. Villarreal win this tie. Villarreal have more attractive pieces with more appealing stats in my personal opinion. The one big issue with this team in the group stages was them not being able to convert their chances. But after so many games of this happening, I think now they'll turn it around. Atletico Madrid versus Manchester United. 2 teams that are not doing so great. Atletico, in all fairness, had a significantly harder group, but still weren't very convincing. They finished second with a -1 goal difference and only 7 goals scored. Antoine Griezmann is the standout for them with 4 goals and 1 assist, but besides that, there's really no one else providing any goals for them. Another problem is Atleti's discipline. They have 3 red cards already. That's the most in the competition. But then we have Manchester United, who are somehow an even larger mess. It's not as bad as Everton currently, but this team is very disorganized. Bruno Fernandes might be averaging 3.6 key passes a game, but his pass selection is awful. The biggest problem, alongside the commonly talked about pressing issues, is Manchester United's inability to keep possession of the ball. But with all this being said, Cristiano Ronaldo is their X factor and has bailed them out so many times this season. 6 goals in the Champions League, and it so happens he faces his favorite opponent, Atletico Madrid. So verdict, somehow I have to say it, Manchester United, and that is only because of Cristiano Ronaldo. X factors can't always save dysfunctional teams, but in this case, I think Ronaldo haunts Atleti yet again. And finally, our last matchup, Ajax versus Benfica. Ajax under Erik ten Hag plays some very attractive football, and 21-22's Ajax are no exception. They breezed past their group and made Dortmund look silly twice. Don't be surprised if this Ajax side pulls a 2018-19, especially with a record-breaking striker like Sebastian Haller. As I said before, Robert Lewandowski is the 2nd best top scorer in the competition with 9 goals. Who's at the top? That's right, Haller with 10. Then you have Antony, who has 4 assists. That's the 2nd best in the competition so far. The problem with Erik ten Hag's system, however, can be the fact that this team can be susceptible to counterattacks. Benfica's draw gives them a better chance as opposed to the other first seeds. Nicolas Otamendi has been their best player so far in the tournament. Odyssey's Vlacho Dimos has played a huge part in Benfica advancing as well, but the problem with this team is their attack. Besides Darwin Nunez's 3 goals, no one else stands out. So verdict, Ajax win this pretty easily. Even if Benfica decide to defend more, Erik ten Hag is a mastermind at breaking down the low block. And that, my friends, were my Champions League predictions for the round of 16. I can't wait to come back to these in complete horror. But what are your predictions? Leave them down below if you'd like. Of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons: Janos Balas, Daniel Ortiz, Edgar A.S., Joseph Bonfante, Nguyen Mintang, Scott Skunk, Tom Bombadil, Victor, Dominic Griffin, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Big Bird, Cash Getty, Exo, Casa, and Tomicus. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and in the annotation up there. You can follow my Twitter for any video updates, all that kind of stuff. Follow my Instagram if you'd like. Follow my TikTok, trying to get to 4,000 there. And of course, you can follow my inactive Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.